Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how often you should be watering your succulents at home. Succulents confuse a lot of people because the general advice out there is to not water the plant much. So that can lead to a severely dehydrated plant because people avoid watering. People that don't do that might be overwatering their plants, and that can lead to root rot, and that will eventually lead to a plant death. I think we can all say that we have all at least killed one succulent in our lifetime, so I'm going to give you some advice now on how you can stop killing your succulents by watering them properly. I have a selection of my succulents here that I'm going to share with you. They need watering, I think, or most of them need watering. So I'm going to give them a water here. I'm going to be showing you what you need to look out for. So before we get to the watering, just a little bit of science first. Succulents live in arid conditions. So that means that they can tolerate a period of drought. So they get a period of drought and then they get a big rain come in to kind of refresh them. So succulents often have thick leaves like this guy here does, this Echeveria. Really thick leaves, and this is where the plant stores its water. So we have to be really careful about watering our plants, because if we give the plant too much water, then that can lead to too much water in the leaves, which can turn them mushy, and we can start to drop leaves, which is not going to look a very attractive plant. Or if we underwater the plant, then the leaves are going to start to lose some of their water and they're going to shrivel up and die. But the biggest problem with Echeveria and generally with succulents is overwatering. People don't understand how often they need to water. They tend to fuss over their plants and they might be watering a little bit too often, and that can lead to rot of the leaves. The most important thing to remember is to only water your succulent when it really needs it. So that means letting the soil dry out thoroughly in between waterings. As a general rule of thumb, I water my succulents probably every 3 or 4 weeks in the summer. I only water when the soil is really dry. I have a thermometer. So only when the thermometer is on 1 on that, when it's on its driest setting, will I come and water my plants. That way I know that the leaves aren't going to be oversaturated with water. If you don't have a moisture meter like I do, then just use your trusty finger, just stick it deep into the soil. And if it's feeling dry enough, if there's no moisture there at all, then just top it up with water. On the other hand, don't leave it too long. Don't put your plant through a long period of dehydration, because like I say, that can lead to damage on the leaves. It can lead to leaf drop as the leaves don't have enough water in them, stored water, and they can start to shrivel up and drop off the stalk of the plant. So that's some general tips on how to water your succulents. So let's have a look at mine and see whether they need watering and how I water my plants. So this is the succulents that I have in my house. Quite a small selection. I don't have loads, but I think I have quite a nice selection. Got a jade plant, that's classed as a succulent. Thick leaves is where it stores the water. So you can normally tell when this is getting thirsty because the leaves will start to shrivel up a little bit. If you give it water, it will respond by the leaves getting a bit thicker, a bit juicier. I've got this plant. This is a succulent. I think it's a peperomia. I can't remember the name of it. But again, thick leaves where it stores the water. So you want to treat this like a peperomia. I'll put the name of it on the screen for you guys. I've got a succulent mix here. I think this is a Crassula. Can't remember what these two are called. I think these are types of Echeverias. Got a 3 cacti in there. They're cuttings that are hopefully rooting. I've got an Echeveria there. Bring this into shot. Got an Echeveria here as well that's starting to flower. Interesting plants. Got another Echeveria there. Bought that from IKEA. And some more cacti there. So what we're going to do, got my watering can here. And I've got, like I say, my moisture meter. So I bottom water all my plants. I've got a video on why I do that. I'll link to that in the description. Just find it easier and more reliable method for watering my plants, and it works equally well with succulents. So if you don't have a moisture meter, like I say, you just need to get in there, get in the soil with your finger, go quite deep, So that feels dry for the first ½ inch, but then if you get a little bit deeper, it starts to feel a bit more moist. So I'm not sure whether that needs a top up of water, so I will just stick in my moisture meter. So that is reading 2, so 2 out of 10 on moisture. So Jade's can tolerate a little bit more watering than the rest of these succulents here, so I will just top this up a little bit. So I'm just gonna add water to the bottom of the pot, let it sit there for an hour or so, and then come back to it. If there's any water left, then I'll just discard the excess. So this one here, I'm gonna put my moisture meter in, so that's reading just after 1, between 1 and 2. So I'll do that. This doesn't have a nursery pot, so I'm just gonna pour water all around it. When you're watering your succulents, we want to mimic the environment that it's living in its habitat. So like I say, it's an arid kind of plant, lives in an arid environment, full sun. So it tolerates a drought condition, but then it gets heavy rains. So we want to make sure that we are letting the soil dry out thoroughly in between waterings, but then when we do come to water, we want to water the plant thoroughly to make sure all the roots get a good soak. So I've watered this all around. Hopefully all the roots have got a good soak. I don't want to give it too much. So bring this one to the front. This is an Echeveria. Put my probe in. That's looking like 2. Just going to top this up with a little bit of water. Not much because it's quite a small plant. I'll come back and check on that in about an hour, see if there's any excess water. If there is, then I'll discard it because I don't want it sitting in water. I don't like to have wet feet. This mix here, that's very dry. So that's a 1 all the way around. So I'm just going to lift this out of its decorative pots. Put some water in the base. So I like bottom watering because it's an even way to water your plants. The water just naturally soaks up through the soil, and that means all the roots get an equal amount of moisture. So I can put that to there, and then my cacti, recently just planted these, so they might not have many roots. So I think this will need a top up of water. So that's reading dry. It does look dry. So I'm going to lift it out of here and give it some good water. Pop that back in. The soil will soak all that up. Bring my Echeveria to the front. Stick my probe in. Quite a dense soil. So this one is reading moist, which is quite surprising. I thought this would be dry. I've not watered it in a while. But that has plenty of water. If I was to add water to this plant, then the plant really won't like it, and it will start to, the leaves will start to take on too much water, and it will start to turn mushy, especially now that it's flowering as well. I don't want to ruin this plant. So it's a good job my moisture meter told me that it was enough moisture in there, so that's good. So I'm not going to give that any water. This Crassula here, Crassula, I think that's how you say it anyway. Let's check on that. So if I was to put my finger in, it feels quite dry. So by finger, I think this needs a water, but we'll see what the probe says. So the probe says 2 or 1.5 to 2. So we'll top that up with water. Got a bit of a small saucer there. So I can put that to the side. My last one, I don't believe I did this one. More cacti. There's a cutting that was given to me as a gift. Birthday present, I believe. Apparently this flowers in the summer, so I'll be looking forward to that. Again, that's looking dry, so I'll top this up with water. As it's a developing plant, you don't want the soil to dry out too much. You want it to develop roots. Top that up with water. And there you have it. They are all my succulents watered. Like I say, I'll come back in about an hour, just lift up all these knocked up all the nursery pots out of the decorative pots and just check whether there's any excess water, whether there's too much water for the soil, and I'll discard that. I don't want these plants sitting in excess water. That could lead to root rot, and it could lead to the leaves drawing up too much water. So relatively simple to water succulents. The main thing I find is you don't want to be overwatering your plants. You want them to be drying out thoroughly in between watering. You want to only water when the soil is dry, and that way the leaves won't take on too much water, and you should have a nice, happy, healthy succulent growing in your house. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. If you have any questions about watering your succulents, then leave them in the comments. If you like the video, then slap a like on it as well, please. Give it a thumbs up, that helps me out. If you like this kind of content, then consider subscribing to the channel. I put out 3 videos a week at the moment, so plenty to get your teeth into. So subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified when my next video comes out, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much, guys.